the movement that literally no one has thought of as you let righteous indignation just sweep on past. Just take this hapless moron, Wayne. Ever since making Facebook posts on US politics, Wayne's IQ has dropped 15 points, and he's developed shingles. Don't be like Wayne. Start doing what no one on the internet has thought of. Try not posting anything.
But wait, I'm a Christian. I want to have a distinctive voice online.
We're glad to hear it, Bill. Here then is our foolproof 3-step plan. Step 1 we've already covered. Don't post stuff you don't understand. Step 2, make it clear in your bio that you're a Christian. Some prefer follower of the way, disciple of the Galilean, Padawan to the Nazarene. Or, if you're not ridiculously obtuse, maybe try Christian. That's step 2, state clearly that you're a Christian. And then step 3, and this one really is key, people, don't be a jerk. That's right, against all contrary inclinations and against the entire tide of jerkness engulfing the web, try not to be a jerk. Those steps again: resist the urge to post on things you don't understand, make plain that you're a Christian, and don't be a jerk. Follow these simple rules and you too might just survive this vitriolic shame storm we call social media.
Welcome everybody to the live cast.
Hello.
I am Glen Scrivener, and with me is
Paul Feesey. Still Paul Feesey.
still Paul
Yep,
Feesey.
same as last week.
Yeah, and last year. So today we're looking at a year in review, 2019,
Yeah.
a year of speaking life.
Yeah, I don't know where the year's gone, to be honest.
No.
It's gone so quick.
Well, has it though? I don't
Well,
know.
it has.
It's been torturously
no,
long, surely.
People do say that, like, you know, oh, I don't know where the time goes, but this is honestly like the first time I've ever just been like, I have no idea what has happened to this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they say a week's a long time in politics. Like 2019
We're
is
not
like
going to talk
an
about
eternity
politics
in
this
politics.
year.
But yeah. we're gonna talk about some things that have happened in the culture out there, and some things that have happened at Speak Life.
Yeah,
So
stuff we've been looking at over the past year.
you're aware that some things have happened in politics, though, Paul? Is that
Has anything really happened, though? Let's be honest. No.
We're back where we started. The Tories have a majority, and on we go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're still paralysed by Brexit. No matter how much we tell each other that we're gonna get Brexit done.
Well,
Who
yeah.
knows? Yeah.
It's probably best to move on from this before I say something I regret about the whole thing. So
The year is 2043, and Boris has got another extension.
we're celebrating non-Brexit Day again. None of us can remember what Brexit even is, but we celebrate it every year regardless.
Yeah, some meaningless ritual. But I don't know what 2019 has been about for you. One of the things it's been about for us has been those top social media tips.
Yeah.
So we gave those top 3.
Mm.
Don't
Sound advice right
Yeah,
there for
yeah.
everybody.
Tip number 1: you don't have to post about everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely the case.
it's probably best if you don't. But,
Yeah, and how many times have we seen people post things and you think you've not understood this? Like,
Yeah.
And I read plenty of things and I think this, but you
Yeah.
know what? I probably don't understand it, so
right.
best not to say anything.
Yeah. You could think that a little bit more, Paul. to be
Well,
honest,
that is very
I
true.
monitor your feed. Someone needs to. So yes, those are our 3 top social media tips. Don't post on everything. Say you're a Christian and don't be a jerk. So I think that's sound advice. And I think social media would be less of a dumpster fire if we managed to follow that advice. Yeah,
Maybe so.
maybe so. So that was our number 10. As we're counting down
Yeah.
some of the events that have been large in our world, in our little corner of the Twitter sphere, here at Speak Life. So that was number 10. What was number 9, Paul?
Number 9 was the Covington Kid.
Wow.
So, which I can't really believe was January
Right.
this year.
See, it's a long year. I
Yeah,
told
well,
you it's a long year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
So if you don't remember Covington Kids, so there we go. We've got a photo, I think, coming up on the screen there of this kid who was caught up in this kind of protest where, as you see in that picture, he's face-to-face with kind of one of the Native American kind of elders. And this guy came up, I think his name was Nathan Phillips, I think
well
was the name
remembered,
of the guy.
yeah.
I can't remember the kid's name, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
who came up and started beating this drum in this kid's face, and the kid had a "Make America Great" hat on and "Make It Great Again," and it basically blew up into this thing as people were saying, "Look, here's this kid standing there smirking at this Native American man. You know, has there ever been a clearer picture of white privilege and
sneering white
racism
privilege
and all that stuff?" And
yeah.
and that was kind of picked up, you know, very quickly in the media. It blew up on Twitter and then was reported by lots of different media outlets. But then within a couple of days, the full video emerged, kind of an 1.5 hour long video, which showed how it started off. Really, there was a group of, I think called the Black Israelites.
That's right, Black Hebrews or
Black Hebrews, who seemed
were hurling abuse at
hurling
the
abuse
kids.
seems to be quite a racist group.
They were racist themselves.
Who were throwing racist abuse at the kids, and the kids were kind of
doing some school chants back.
Yeah, kind of
just
that kind of thing.
kids.
And then bizarrely, this man Nathan Phillips walks into the middle of it, out of nowhere, banging his drum, and goes straight up to these kids, you know, completely out of the blue, and comes face to face with this kid, and as that emerged, it became clear that the story was a little bit different.
Right.
And actually, a number of news outlets actually rescinded their kind of articles and changed their headlines and things. I mean, plenty of people doubled down anyway,
right?
You know, regardless of, you know, because why let evidence get in the way?
Yeah.
You know,
of a
facts.
Twitchfork mob.
You know, so so it was a fascinating thing to see. You know, and a lot of people said, hey, this probably wouldn't have happened if the kid hadn't been wearing a MAGA hat. You know, people wouldn't have picked up on it, you know, but people were using it really just to say, you know, Donald Trump is a terrible person and look at the kind of people that support him. But it was kind of fake news, really.
Totally fake news. And it's all about perspective. It's all about, you know, thinking that your tiny frame through which you're viewing the world is the totality. And, you know, here we are across an ocean, and you see one little tiny 16 by 9 image of this kid frozen in a grin because he doesn't know what else to do. And you could conclude all sorts of things from that. You could, sneering white privilege, and this is, you know.
The amazing thing was that I remember when we watched, we did some clips from it, that there's actually clips of another Native American who was with Nathan Phillips.
Right.
You know, talking to the kids there, and he's just effing and jeffing at the kids.
Totally.
And he says to them, "Go back to Europe."
Yeah. Right.
Like, and you're like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Like, where's the racism here? You're saying the racism is coming from the kids. You know, it's
right.
But you know, that's how it works these days.
And it just makes you very skeptical of the lines that you're being fed by the media, because everyone is looking at the world through a certain frame, through a certain perspective. And if you can get it so wrong about that poor kid, what else are we getting?
Well, I mean, and I think I've said before on here, I'm literally at a stage now where I just don't think. I mean, I don't think. There we go. No, I don't think that we can really know, in terms of kind of the day-to-day what's going on in the world, what reality is and what isn't really, because you know, how far are you prepared to dig in terms of checking all their sources and things you post or read, and the reality is that, you know, many of us are not bothered to do even one bit of digging, but how far do you go? You do a quick Google and go, has anyone else said the same thing? You know, are people, or are they all claiming it from the same source, but even that same source might be a wrong source, and you know, it's hard to know what is true.
And you get that when you read an article about something where the journalist speaks about an area that you know something about. You know, I mean, journalists, they've got to be jacks of all trades and masters of none, and and they've got their fingers in 1,000 different pies, and sure, fine. But it's when they suddenly like discuss like a finer point of theology, or they get the difference between evangelical and evangelist wrong, or something like that, which, you know, not everybody knows that at all by any means, stretch of the imagination. But because you're a Christian and you know that, and because the journalist then gets that wrong, it's one of those moments where you go, oh, hang on, their ignorance about this probably translates to every other thing they ever write about. And they're probably just as ignorant about everything, but they're trying to make it look like they understand about stuff. And actually, you know, they're just journalists. They don't know what they're talking about, and nobody does. So maybe we go back to rule number 1 of social media. Try not posting anything. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Try and understand your sphere of competence, and try not to voyage far beyond it. Would be one thing to learn from that. So that was our number 9 event from 2019, the Covington Kid. What's in at number 8 with a bullet?
Number 8 with a bullet was our Easter video. Well, we had 2, or I think there may be a couple more than 3 altogether, actually. But it was all revolving around the video game That Dragon Cancer. So we had a couple of videos, That Dragon Death, and was it Unwinnable? I think was the name of one of the things. So it
Yes.
was, and so that Dragon Cancer, a video game created by a couple whose young son had passed away from a brain cancer that he'd fought, and this game kind of is a way of. I think for them, in a sense, it was part of the grieving process, wasn't it?
Yes,
But it
it's a memorial.
kind of chronicled their journey, and it's a game you play that takes you through their situation, really. But you in a sense, you can't win the game.
Win.
You know,
Yeah.
the Joel, I think, was the name of the young boy. He's always going to die,
Right.
you know, and
No matter what you do.
no matter what you do in the game. And there's lots of areas of the game where, you know, that you'd assume in a video game, I need to do this, I need to do that, but actually you can't do anything.
Right.
You know, you're powerless almost in these situations.
Right.
And so we had some great, videos from that, and some great, not only a great video about it, but a kind of extended interview with the parents as well, and that was kind of really good stuff. And I think we've got a clip.
Yeah, let's have a clip and see a minute of this.
The computer games industry is worth more than the movies and the music industry combined. Each year, 2.5 billion of us spend $150 billion on games. Games that put you in the driver's seat. Games that make you the hero of the story as you collect each power-up, ascend through each level, and finally defeat the big bad boss. But one game challenges all that. Its creators, Ryan and Amy Green, have made a game that's hard to play. In fact, it's a game that's impossible to win, because this game mirrors life. And in real life, you're not in the driver's seat. You don't choose your destiny, and you cannot defeat the big bad boss. Death always wins. That Dragon Cancer is a memorial to Ryan and Amy's young son, Joel, who for 4 years fought the dragon of brain cancer and lost.
So it's a deeply moving game, and it's hard to think of other games that you can say that about. You know, games are games, and you go in there for escapism and a bit of fun. But this is immersing you in a situation you do not want to be in, because it's a situation of being out of control. And actually, computer games are all about putting you into control, and you've got control in your hands. And as long as you're persistent and clever enough, you will beat the dragon. But not in this case. And I just thought, what a profound picture of a theology of the cross. You know, a theology of glory says we can ascend to glory by being big enough and smart enough and clever enough. And we can beat the dragon because, we have enough strength. And this is all about, no, you're not big enough, you're not strong enough, you're not clever enough. The dragon wins every time, but you are met by someone who loves you in the midst of it. And you're carried through death, carried through defeat, out the other side. And what's fascinating is you cry when you play the computer game, but you cry the most when you see Joel again at the end. After he dies, you can't do anything about him dying, and he dies, and then the screen just says loading, 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 and then you find yourself on this boat sailing across the divide to this island where there is Joel again, and he's doing his favorite stuff. He's got his favorite dog, and he's eating his favorite food, pancakes, and you can blow bubbles to him, his favorite thing in all the world. And actually seeing him again makes you cry more than when he was in pain. It's a weird kind of thing, but it's good crying. It's this acknowledgement that this is what life is like. We go through the valley of the shadow, and we come out to feasting joy at the end. And it's a profoundly human journey. It's a profoundly Christian journey, and they've managed to pull it off in a computer game. It's just extraordinary. So
very powerful.
If people haven't checked out that Dragon Cancer, we've got a link in the description box, and you can check out all 3 of those Easter videos that we released. So that's our number 8 from 2019. What's at number 7?
Number 7 was our video, A Picture is Worth 1,000 Words, which was very early on this year, beginning of January time, and it kind of come off the back of our visit to the Brephos conference at the end of 2018. So that was the conference run by Brephos, kind of about issues around abortion. And so the video, again, I think we've not got a clip from it. We've just got a photo, I think, but it's worth checking out. So it was really to do with at the conference. Ashleen Goodison, I think her surname is, had done a kind of seminar on the way that images had changed public perception over the years, and she talked about Thomas Clarkson kind of taking around images of slavery and slave ships, and how the public, in a sense, knew slavery was going on, but until they kind of saw the reality of what it was like, it didn't really make a difference. That people didn't feel like they needed to stand up against it. And that kind of mustered people. And then, same in terms of things like Emmett Till, a young boy who was kind of killed, a young black boy, kind of in a racist attack, and that kind of...
In the sort of civil rights era, 50s.
Yeah, so it's one of the things that spurred on Rosa Parks.
Right.
One of the things she spoke about in terms of her motivation. And just, again, there was the image of the little lad washed up on the beach in 2015 or so, I think it was, the refugee that kind of shook the government and stuff, as well as, the nation. And just how when people see these images, actually it has an effect. And we kind of used that and said, well, look, here are these images of abortion. And we all know abortion goes on. But actually, a lot of people have never really seen abortion and what it actually looks like, or even really thought about what it looks like. And I mean, and we see that time and time again. If you follow any groups on Facebook, kind of speaking to people on the street, often they'll ask people, what are your thoughts on abortion? And many people are, you make your own decision, and maybe they might say, well, I'm against it, but let people do what they want to do. And they often make people, say, well, don't make people. They say, would you like to watch a 1-minute video and stuff? And 9 times out of 10, people are absolutely appalled at what they see. But it's kind of hidden away. And so that video was just kind of an attempt to kind of say, look, here are these ones. How do we respond to this? And I think it ended with that Wilberforce quote. Wilberforce, didn't he say, like, you can choose to turn away, but you can never say you didn't know, or something along those lines.
Exactly.
And that was part of the aim of it, really. So do go and check it out if you've got the time.
A powerful video. A picture's worth 1,000 words. And then in at number 6 from this year, we had the great privilege of interviewing Tom Holland.
Not that one. The other one.
The other. The historian Tom Holland, who wrote the book Dominion. And I got to talk to him for a best part of an hour up in Brixton. And just such an interesting guy who's been on a journey as an historian. He realizes that as a classical historian, the Julius Caesars of this world, who kill 1 million Gauls and enslave 1 million more, that they are nothing like his own sensibilities. Yeah. And he remembers, he talks about, talking about the Greeks and the Romans and the Persians and Islam, and just seeing how the world of classical antiquity is just so alien to him. What changed? Well, Jesus Christ. That's what happened to history, and it's made him rethink absolutely everything, and it's made him pen a fascinating history of Christianity called Dominion. And I asked him a number of different questions, including where is it that we've got our sense of human rights from? And we've got a clip of Tom Holland answering that question.
It seems like the problems we have with the church have been given to us by the church. The problems we have with Christianity have been given to us by Christianity.
Well, what I would say is that by and large, when Christianity is put in the dock and condemned for being patriarchal or hegemonic or oppressive or Spanish Inquisition or Crusades or whatever, I mean, I'm sure you will be familiar with the brickbats that get thrown at it, that the standards by which the church is being judged and found wanting are themselves deeply Christian. Yes. And this, of course, is most famously pointed out by Nietzsche, who is a very significant presence in this book. Yes. Because actually, I read an enormous amount of Christian literature for this book, but almost nothing I read made me feel more deeply Christian than Nietzsche, because Nietzsche actually hates Christianity for the reasons that, by and large, even a Dawkins is willing to
admire it.
To admire it. I mean, namely, its valorization of the weak and the poor, and that's what Nietzsche hates. And looking at it through that prism, then Nietzsche was a brilliant classicist, enables you to kind of switch gears and re-inhabit a world in which Christianity does not exist, and in which the image of the cross as an emblem of redemption does not exist. Instead, the cross remains what it was to the Romans, an implement of torture.
Yes, that is quite a binary way of looking at it, and that would be kind of my instinct to read Nietzsche in that way. We don't want to follow Nietzsche, therefore it's either the abyss or it's Christ and him crucified. But what if someone would say to you, okay, we don't go with Nietzsche, but there's a third option, isn't there? We don't need to go for the pale Galilean either.
Well, that is the course that by and large the West has taken. I mean, it has taken the course of saying, we'll take over Christian morals and ethics, thank you very much, but we're not actually going to bother with any of the mumbo jumbo that requires us to go to church. The question that is posed by that, of course, is whether you can continue to have the bloom if the roots have been pulled up, and we don't know the answer to that.
So I was continually trying to press him on that, because he continually wanted to say, okay, Nietzsche says that it's Christianity alone that is holding back Western civilization from the abyss. And I kept on sort of pressing him. Are you saying, along with Nietzsche, it's either Jesus or hell? Like, is it Jesus or the pit? And essentially, Tom just kept saying yes, but without coming out and saying so.
Right.
But it's just very, very interesting as Tom expresses historically what's going on. What's going on is there's been survival of the fittest since long before Darwin named it. It's always been survival of the fittest and the sacrifice of the weakest. And the only people who have ever overturned that view have been these Christians who keep on talking about the sacrifice of the fittest, called Jesus, for the survival of the weakest, us. And it's only been the Jesus story that actually upends what is otherwise a really hellish story about the strong survive and the weak get, what's coming to them, and then everybody just falls into the pit together. So it does seem to me it's either Christ or hell, right? Which sounds like an incredibly fundamentalist, bigoted thing to say.
I was going to say, right.
doesn't it? But when seen in historical perspective, you're just like, oh no, that's just true. That's just how history has unfolded. It's either this way of dog eat dog, or it's Jesus. It's one or the other.
Yeah, and I mean, it was an amazing interview. We were talking about it the other day, actually, with a guy, a kind of dad's group I was at, and said he'd watched it, and he said he just loved it, thought it was so good. And 'cause, I mean, there's an amazing moment where about the human rights, and this idea that, hey, if we didn't have Jesus, we'd have got there eventually, surely. And Tom Holland's response is literally just to laugh. It's just like, let's proper scoff at the whole thing, and he's just like, no, right. We wouldn't have got to human rights without Jesus. And he had that amazing quote, didn't he? The idea that human rights are hanging in the ether somewhere waiting to be discovered is as theological an belief as the idea that Jesus rose from the dead, which is just an incredible quote, to have. But I mean, it's an amazing interview, and in terms of just showing how, I mean, and like the phrase you use a number of times, even the problems people have with the Bible come from the Bible, and he just shows that everything that we hold dear in our lives, things that we value and think, we think it's worthwhile. Why are some people at least furious about what happened on Friday? It's because they care about the weak and the poor, right? Right. Not to say that you don't necessarily if you went the other way, but but we have that because we are a Christianized people, and we would not have that if we were a Greco-Roman people, if we were people of Caesar. And Tom Holland just does a great job of showing, all these things, basically you're steeped in Christian belief. And I just thought it was a great interview, and he does a brilliant job as well of, he, as a guy who, where he sits exactly at the moment, I don't know, but let's say he's an outsider, he's outside the church, let's say. Amazingly, you ask him about where has the church gone wrong, and he basically says, well, you spent too much time trying to be liberal Democrat social workers, right? and your bishops are talking about Brexit all the time. No one cares what they think about Brexit. Why don't you talk about the resurrection and virgin birth and all the weird
Original
stuff?
sin and
All that
angels.
stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing that you've got a guy who's not really in the kind of circle of Christianity saying, you know what, it'd be really good if you guys just preach the Bible a bit more.
Right.
Which seems to be what every liberal church is kind of fighting against,
Yeah.
you know, and saying, no, we need to be more like the culture. And actually he's saying, no, where you've gone wrong is you've jumped into bed with the culture. No one cares what you think about culture.
Right.
Preach a distinctive Christian message.
Yeah, preach the weird stuff. And especially Christ and Him crucified. I mean, that's where the book begins and it's where the book ends. And he says this is the unique contribution of Christianity from which all the other contributions flow, is that you've got the sacrifice of the fittest for the survival of the weakest. Preach that. Preach the cross.
Absolutely.
And actually, you know, the day after we filmed that interview, we went and saw him give a lecture in Cambridge. And he preached the cross, basically, in this very academic kind of lecture, academic setting, in which he had his PowerPoint presentation. He was like, well, here's how the Persians did crucifixion. Here's how the Romans did crucifixion. Here's how ISIS have been doing crucifixions. And he just builds up, and he kind of ties the knot in your stomach of what this like horrific slave's death actually entailed. And then he's like saying, you know, and therefore when Christians come along and they say the creator of the universe hanging upon that cross is the most revolutionary message you've ever heard in your life, and nothing could ever top it in terms of revolutionary message. And the way he preached the cross in that academic lecture is better than most Easter sermons I've ever heard.
Sure.
You know.
It's just funny when you put it like that, isn't it? He does talk about this event of cataclysmic proportions.
Right.
You know, that's what you believe in.
Yeah.
And we kind of go, yeah, we've got some thoughts on Brexit though. So wonderfully putting us in our place, which I thought was great. So
Yeah.
So is that halfway?
That's halfway.
We're halfway through our top 10. Big shout out to some people watching. Robert Chamberlain, Ian McCarthy, hello, good to see you. Tony Smith, Jack Holcomb.
Hello,
Jack Holcomb, one of my ex-youth group members, saying hello, his first live cast.
Wow.
Taking you this long. This long. Shocking.
One of your youth.
Right.
What's Jack up to these days?
He's at university. So
Is he?
Yeah, he's in Derby.
Oh,
Yeah,
Derby.
he's got his own little radio show as well.
Really?
Yeah, Drive Time.
Well played, Jack.
Jack and I think it's Anna. Might be wrong, but
Jack
we'll
and
see.
Anna.
Yeah, 4 p.m. Maybe.
Jack and Ori.
Don't know which day.
Okay, he's getting
Let
ready.
us know. Let
He's
us know.
getting ready. So that's number 6, Tom Holland. And then number 5, a craze that we've probably all forgotten about now, but we looked back over our videos.
It's
and
good
went,
for 5 minutes.
oh, yeah, Face App.
Yeah.
Remember Face App?
Yes.
How
yes,
fun
we
was
do.
that? And we've got some images of our own lovely visages that have been aged.
And now can we see the
For
old one?
those who are just listening in on the podcast, cruel Paul Feesey put actually my face through Face App like 3 times.
3 times,
That was
yeah.
3 times. So that was
Yeah.
aged thrice.
Yeah.
I guess I'm 180 years old in that. or
Yeah, I
something
mean,
like
there's a lot there. It is. You have kind of turned into an old woman at that stage.
that.
Like,
Yeah, there's something quite feminine about it. I don't know. I still see me in the eyes. That's what's really weird about
In
it.
the
You
eyes.
look at yourself, and there's still hello, old friend. There you are.
it's like Ethel
know,
who sits in the same seat in church every week. Like,
She has seen much, and we should praise her for her wisdom. But that's what. And then we had this other photograph that we took of both Paul and myself. And
Yeah.
see, Paul, like you don't look too different.
I was going to say, look, having just had the context of your picture, I feel a lot better looking at that now. So
Don't you? You look fine. And it reminds you that like when you meet people like childhood friends and schoolmates,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
haven't seen them for like 20 years, you realize that actually middle-aged people, they're just tired, saggy teenagers, aren't they? That's all old middleaged people.
tired, saggy teenagers. Love it.
That's
Love
what
it.
I am. But what we did was with this Face App, we went onto the beach
Yes.
at Eastbourne, and we
Oh yes.
got into
yes.
conversation with some of the youngsters,
Yeah.
including like 2 girls who were like taking selfies for Instagram,
Yep.
and we asked them, would you like to do the Face App with us? And I showed one of them Face App, and she looked at my photograph and she said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, no, that's the before shot. That's not, we haven't put any aging on that. And then, like, so we showed these two girls face up. We showed, like, was it 4 people we ended up? 3 or 4?
I think it was 3 in the end. Two girls and the guy.
And every single one of them wanted to kill themselves.
Yeah, they were mortified by it,
Right.
weren't they?
Yeah.
And like they didn't even look that old.
They didn't
'cause
look
were
older
so
than me.
fresh-faced. No, they were so fresh-faced anyway.
Yeah.
Because I think basically it just picks up on any slight
Yeah.
wrinkle on your face and accentuates it. So
Yeah.
these kids barely had a wrinkle anyway. So
They literally all expressed, I would kill myself
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than reach the
It's
age
just-
of 50.
yeah, can you imagine?
And they're like, I don't want to reach that age. And I'm like, well, the alternative is not better. Like,
You have chosen death.
it's like death or looking like a 50-year-old, isn't? And that really, that's
Yeah.
really quite
well,
shocking.
in the
isn't it?
Instagram culture,
Yeah.
where what you look like is big currency.
Yeah.
That's
And it's very much a youth culture,
Yeah.
Like we want to look like, 17-year-old models that look like 12-year-old girls who are, selling, maybe it's Maybelline and, kind of
that's my dream.
how
That's
to,
what I'm aiming for. Yeah.
and how to fight the 7 signs of aging. And
Yeah.
it's
It's all a bit Logan's Run, isn't it? Like,
Right.
hit 30 and you'll get killed. That's it. No.
That's what they wanted, but so that's youth culture right there. So FaceApp was
That was fun. Yeah.
FaceApp was our fad, and then another fun.
And now Russia owns all of our images somewhere.
That's
so,
true. That's true. They can have my face. That's fine.
certainly if it looks like it did on there. No.
It's yours. And then Kanye.
Ah, yes, you can.
Can you? You can. So big news. Kanye's coming out as a born again Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when was this? It was a month or 2 back, was it? Probably.
Mhm.
Now that was quite a big
October?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was fascinating, wasn't it? Just,
Mhm.
I mean, because it didn't quite come out of the blue. Because he's always had this kind of pseudo-religious thing going on.
Mm.
But I suppose what appeared to be a genuine conversion seemed to come out of the blue more
Yes.
than anything.
Yes.
Um,
Is it pseudo-religious to think of yourself as God? Is that pseudo-religious? No, but he has, walked with Jesus and spoken about walking with Jesus in the past and that sort of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he just and not only did he, come out and say, well, I'm a Christian now. The things he was saying were, at least to my mind, had a greater depth than simply just throwing out some Christianese words. He seemed to be, talking about a lot of things, and I was thinking, wow, this guy clearly read some Bible to know what he's talking about here, and or at least heard some Bible.
And some of the guys discipling him were like, graduates from Master's Seminary where John MacArthur was.
Right, yeah.
He has since gone and done a Sunday service at Joel Osteen's church.
Yeah, so
which
that's
is interesting.
I mean, it's hard to know quite what to make of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? I mean, let's see where he ends up, because I mean,
Right.
it's still early days, isn't it? I mean,
Right.
he might be being influenced in the wrong direction, but
Yeah.
um,
But this is what we expect from Mark chapter 4. Different kind of seed falls on different kind of soils, and you don't immediately know what joy looks like.
Yeah.
It's like immediate joy. Well, maybe that's going to get choked by thorns, or maybe it's good soil that's going to produce a crop 30, 60, 100 times what's sown.
absolutely,
Mm.
yeah. And he could do, he may well do great things.
Well, the great paradigm that he seems to be inhabiting is the Nebuchadnezzar one,
yeah.
right? And so he's just like released the opera, Nebuchadnezzar, and
Is he just in an opera?
yeah,
Is he?
yeah,
I think-
totally.
As opposed to, that's a separate thing to the album he did.
Yeah, no, the album, yeah.
Oh, the
It's
album.
got-
Oh,
yeah, it's
right.
the
I
album.
see. That
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
album.
no.
Right,
He hasn't
right.
staged it yet.
Right, I was going to say, like, it
But,
wouldn't surprise me though, if he had. You see,
But it's just this idea that, so he was this proud person who was humbled for a season. And now, at the end of Daniel chapter 4, he writes to the whole world and says, you need to trust in the Most High God the way I do. And that does seem to be kind of what's happening. So
yeah. And
is cool.
I think he's got his Christmas album out
that's
next
true.
week, isn't
On
that true?
Christmas Day.
That's the rumor that he's going to drop the
Oh, he
Christmas
will.
album on
Yeah,
that day.
surely he will.
But I mean, what a strange world we live in. Can you imagine, like, it's on a par, at least in my mind, with. Can you imagine the early church going like, and that Paul guy
yeah.
has become a Christian? What, you like the guy?
Yeah.
No. Like, and it's a bit like this. Kanye's become a Christian. What, Kanye?
Mm,
He's married to a Kardashian.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
God does amazing things.
God moves his
like-
pawns around the chess set. and,
Absolutely.
yeah,
So,
he knows what he's doing. Whether we know what we're doing is another matter.
well, I think
which is
people
why
can
we
tell.
produced this video about an app, because we were noticing how online all these Christians who'd never had a second's thought for Kanye West were suddenly wanting to contribute to the cultural conversation about Kanye, and yet they might have needed a little bit of help. And that's where the app Kanye You Can comes in.
Jesus is King.
Excuse me?
Oh, Kanye's new album, Jesus is King.
Oh, right.
It's flippin' ace.
Ace.
Yeah, it's legit. It's legit lit, you know. I mean, obviously, I can't hear Kanye the way you can hear Kanye, but you know, I'm listening. You know, teach me.
Hey Christian, want to jump on the Kanye bandwagon but don't know how? Want to sound knowledgeable about rap when your only exposure has been the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Then try Kanye Ye Can, the new app that'll make you down with all the kids. Our algorithm generates the perfect Kanye appreciation. Download the app today.
Water shook me. It's dope for shizzle.
I haven't heard anything this hot since Stronger.
It's straight fire. Fire, 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 fire.
Kanye is like the new Cliff Richard. Cliff Richard, but married to Jordan? I've been a low-key fan, but now I'm a straight-up disciple.
I hate rap.
We enjoyed it.
That's
anyway.
the second video on that list to end with us dancing randomly at the camera.
Is that what you call it? Good fun. So that's number 4. Kanye, You Can.
You can.
And then at number 3 in our list of top events in the Speak Life 2019 calendar, Jordan Peterson.
Oh, JP.
Yeah, who we mentioned a lot more. You know,
I was going to say, it's been almost a quiet year, really,
Has
because
been.
it was almost a week would not go by.
in 2018, it
Yeah.
was JP this and JP that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he's had health problems in the family. His wife's been very ill
Yeah.
and diagnosed, I think, with terminal cancer. But
Yeah,
and
I
then,
heard something like that.
and then had a good result from some surgery. But then, he was in rehab for some anxiety pills, medication I think that he was on, and
It's quite common in the States, I hear, isn't it?
okay,
I think
I don't know.
there's a big issue with prescription medication
Yes.
and addiction.
Yes. So he's been in rehab. I think he's now back out of rehab, but taking a break. I mean, he spoke about the publicity behind him. He said it was like riding a 100-foot wave, you know. And if you're riding a 100-foot wave, how does that end well?
Yeah.
How do you pull out of that? And he's had a bit of a crash, I think, this year. But
Sure.
before he did, he made a quite popular video called "Who Dares Say He Believes in God?" Which is, you know, whenever he was asked, "Do you believe in God?" he would be quite cagey in the way that he would respond to that. And then one of the ways he would respond would be to say, "Well, who could dare possibly say that they believe in God? Can you imagine you'd have to have your entire life in order to be properly oriented towards the, you know, whatever the highest being, towards being itself, you know, to speak in Petersonian." And so I did a little video called "Who Dares Say He Believes?" Jordan Peterson does a lot. And actually, Peterson, in most of his other videos, talks about how you need to have certain beliefs about yourself and certain beliefs about ultimate reality before you actually move out into the world and do anything. And so, we all act on account of a whole bunch of faith positions which you can't rationally prove, but on the basis of which they enable you to step out into the world and offer what you've got. and you'll probably get crucified, but maybe being will raise you back up again, and that's sort of Jordan Peterson's thing. And so we did a video on that. Who dares say they believe?
Yeah.
What Jordan Peterson does. And in the video, I kind of compare him a little bit to Luther before he was converted. Because Luther was Mr. Law, wasn't he? He was absolutely, and he was a professor of Old Testament. And what is it that Jordan Peterson spends all his time kind of talking about? A lot of Old Testament stories.
Yeah.
But the burden of actually living properly before being itself absolutely crushed Luther until he actually understood the gospel.
Yeah, grace.
And then when he understood grace, it was like heaven's gates were opened, and he went into paradise. So here's praying that Jordan Peterson might have that similar kind of breakthrough, and in fact, laying flat on your back, and going to rehab might be a really good way of actually realizing it can't be about me climbing towards heaven.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought it was fascinating, because he dodged that question about God quite a number of times, hadn't he? Or had answered it in a very kind of roundabout philosophical way, and
Right.
actually it kind of brought, I thought his answer given in that interview kind of brought things a bit more clearly into focus, that he really, you're kind of thinking, well, this guy gets it in a sense. I think he's got a biblical view of human nature, hasn't he? I think that human nature is flawed and broken, and in this terrible state. But his solution is kind of, well, here's my 12 rules for life, which he's based on scripture, interestingly, but he's very much saying who can bear this burden.
Right.
You're going, yeah, you're right. Don't keep trying to do it yourself, Jordan.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting? As soon as that video comes out, he collapses in a heap, and we don't hear from him again.
Yeah.
And we have been wondering for a while, what's going to happen with all these buccos. That's what Paul Vanderklay calls all the Jordan Peterson fans, buccos, who want to tidy up their room and be more lobster. What's going to happen a year down the track when they recognize they just can't do it? Well, here's praying that Jordan Peterson himself encounters grace and shows a different way forwards.
Absolutely. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Very good. So that was our number 3, Jordan Peterson's video, Who Dares Say He Believes. What's at number 2, Paul?
Number 2, a recent entry, only from a few weeks ago when we were thinking about inclusivity, and we put together a little sketch to get us thinking about what does it look like to be inclusive, and I think we're going to watch that clip now.
Cup of tea? But you don't believe in tea.
Sure, not for myself. My body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. I don't personally partake of tannin-based stimulants.
How dare you?
Sorry?
You're a tannin phobe.
I'm not afraid of tannin. I was just wondering if you want...
Some of my best friends work in the drink industry.
Some of my best friends work in the drink industry too.
Oh, the old some of my best friends are tea drinkers defense.
Well, I think you started that one. But look, do you want a tea or not?
You know what you are?
Someone offering you tea?
You're a turd.
Excuse me?
A tea exclusionary radical drink maker.
I don't think that's a thing.
Oh, it's a thing, and you are that thing. You, sir, are a turd.
Look, white.
Oh, a white supremacist too, I see.
Black then.
Oh, black or white, is it? What about those who like their tea non-binary?
I really don't think that's a thing.
I'm sorry, I can't even be around your exclusion and hatred anymore. You, sir, are the worst person I have ever met.
Oh, cuppa?
Tea bigot.
There we go. Well,
What was the point
never
of that?
true a word spoken. No.
You, sir, are
I'm
a
a
turd.
turd. Yes. Yes, we had a lot of fun making that one, didn't we?
We did, actually, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that was off the back of the Chick-fil-A incident, wasn't it? So the Chick-fil-A American chicken brand that's come over to the UK. Tried to come to the UK. Had a place in Reading in a shopping centre there, but people took offence to that because Chick-fil-A are a Christian company whose CEO, at least at some stage 7 years ago, has said he believes in traditional marriage.
Yes, in the same year that both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama both said that they also believed in traditional marriage back in 2012. But anyway.
Bigots.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, back then.
And so people were obviously responded to that, and they said, well, look, the Chick-fil-A gives money to the Salvation Army, and Salvation Army also affirms traditional marriage, and therefore, not kind of same-sex partnerships and same-sex marriage. Therefore, we must get rid of Chick-fil-A.
Extraordinary.
And so Chick-fil-A were told by the shopping centre that, once your 6 month kind of probationary period is up, that's it, you're out. And we just said it was a fascinating thing because, supposedly we're here, these people on the left generally thinking about how being inclusive. But what we see is that it's not a case of including people with different views, it's we must entirely wipe out even the existence of a differing view.
Yes.
And the irony being that, Chick-fil-A themselves, if you were a member of the LGBTQ community, you could walk into Chick-fil-A and order some chicken. They would give you some chicken.
Right.
You could get a job at Chick-fil-A and go and work for them. And the Salvation Army themselves kind of turned around and said, look, well, we do loads of work with the LGBTQ community. I think they said they may even be one of the biggest providers of services to people in the LGBTQ community. So, you kind of wonder, in the name of inclusion, quite what on earth this boycott of Chick-fil-A has really achieved, because, there are probably people in the LGBTQ community who will suffer from not having as many, as much help from the Salvation Army off the back of it.
Yeah.
And where are you going to get your chicken?
It's madness. It is madness.
But no, you say my point though.
Yeah.
But you just think and I think we said when we talked about it, it's not just, you have a view that's more conservative and you have a view that's more liberal, and hey, that's okay. It's just, we can't. Those who are a bit more liberal on these things were saying we can't even countenance the idea of a conservative belief existing
anywhere
and be giving any validity
in our universe.
Yeah, and then we talked as well. How far do you take this? Whenever you go anywhere, can you be sure that
you won't hear views that are not right?
Yeah, or that someone's in the organisation.
Yes.
Might not hold the view.
Right views.
Yeah, and it sounds crazy. Well, I was going to say, people would say, well, that's ridiculous. Going to that. I go, you're right, it is ridiculous. That is the point.
This is the world in which we live. Welcome to 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turds.
And the only thing to do against it is to make a silly little sketch.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to go in with the humour on it. So
yeah, that's what we try to do. And in at number 1 in 2019, we've made 4 different Christmas films this year, and one of them has been about a dragon in our nativity. Shall we have a look at the dragon in our nativity?
There's a dragon in my nativity, dreadful and immense. The shepherds quake, the wise men shake, and spill their frankincense. The cattle are a-lowing, and the baby is awake, while Joe and Mary tremble. Oh, this must be some mistake. There's a dragon over Bethlehem. I don't know how he came. I didn't think a donkey could have borne the dragon's frame. I don't believe the census had been called for such as him, and I'm certain that when Dragon knocked, no room was at the inn. There's a dragon by the stable. I don't know why he's there. He hasn't bought a present, and he only seems to glare. He hovers over David's town.
And you can watch more of that. The link is in the description box. And do continue to share that video and all 4 of our Christmas videos around the place.
Yeah.
So we whittled it down to those 10, but Paul, there were some honourable mentions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So going through this makes you realise just how much we've actually put out this year. So there are a number of interviews which have been well worth checking out, apart from the Tom Holland ones and things like that. So we had a great interview with Rebecca McLaughlin about her book Confronting. There she is on the top left there. About her book Confronting Christianity, which has almost become, I think, like the new textbook for.
Yeah.
These are kind of issues there. And
Sam Albury, who is bottom right of that image, he called it the reason for God for our decade.
Right, there you go.
Reason for God was about 10 years
There's a Keller
ago.
one, yeah.
That's the Keller one.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
Rebecca McLaughlin's.
There was a great one with Andrew Wilson as well. He's there on your bottom left there. So he's an Eastbourne local, isn't he? From King's Church. And he'd written the book Spirit and Sacraments,
Yes.
An Invitation to Eucharismatic Worship.
Very
Is that
good.
right?
It is, and it's a great book.
Yeah, excellent stuff. So well worth the look if you've not read it. Check the interview out. You can find it on our YouTube channel, but also grab the book because it's great. You interviewed Peter Lightheart as well, didn't you? There he is in the middle at the bottom. Remind me which that one. What
On
you spoke to him
evangelism,
about.
basically. But
Yes.
he had some great stuff to say about outreach in the church. And then Sharon Dirrick's top right, Am I Just My Brain? Was her book all about neuroscience. And it was actually a book that really helped me to pray more, because she's actually talking about there is far more to this world than just matter in motion, and the mystery that is around minds and consciousness and sentience. Actually, you start to press into that, and you start to realize what a weird universe we live in.
Yeah, sure.
And it's not just billiard balls smashing into each other.
It's one of those interviews I watched, and you kind of look at it, the title, and you kind of go, "Oh, this is a bit. Like, what's this going to be about?"
Yeah, a bit
and you kind of,
academic,
as you start watching it, you're like, "Oh, this is actually really fascinating."
Yeah.
So,
What are our minds? But yeah, and it literally reading the book made me want to pray more. Made me pray more. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, did you mention? I know you mentioned Sam Albury had spoken about Rebecca McLaughlin, but we also spoke to Sam Albury as well. I think he was there on the bottom right. Have we got that picture of
Seven?
There he is on the bottom right.
There he is.
There he is, unusually in the middle of the frame in that picture
Yes,
there.
yeah,
If you watch the interview, you'll notice that Sam dives out of the corner of the screen most of the time. So
he was refreshingly non-image conscious.
No, absolutely, no.
Giving that interview on the 7 Myths of Singleness, and
And then you had Alistair Roberts as well, I think.
That's true. Alistair Roberts was a great interview.
And does he do a daily YouTube video?
Oh, he does. Yeah.
Yeah, so he puts a lot of
prolific.
content out.
He is
so.
prolific. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it was good stuff. And so there was many things, those some kind of honourable mentions, and then obviously we had a lot of other big things going on this year. What with the whole refurb of the building? So this very room we're sitting in, was this time last year didn't exist.
Yeah.
And all our interns who are working behind the scenes or sometimes in front of the cameras as well.
That's right.
That's all kind of happened since September time. So I mean, it's been a huge year really for us.
Yeah, really big, and missions as well. Going on the road, speaking at universities and schools and churches. I think of like Banstead in South London, just going there and having events every night from Monday night all the way through to the Sunday night after that, and people coming to Christ at every single event, and just 24/7 prayer happening throughout to support it, and just some amazing outreach happening. Also released a couple of different books, Reading Between the Lines Volume 2 and then The Gift, which I was just told by my publisher yesterday, they've sold 60,000 copies. So that's quite good, isn't it? 60,000
Nice.
out there, and we're praying that they'll be used and read by a whole bunch of people.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of churches handing them out over the Christmas period.
right.
So
Yes.
pretty sure we're handing them out. So
Oh, there you go.
yeah,
There you go. That'll be that. And we've got...
that's the 60,000.
That's the Gotta give them away, don't I? Give them away. And then another exciting video, and we'll sort of finish on this, is that our interns have been working on a terrific little short film called 2020 Vision. And in a second, we're going to see a little bit of behind the scenes. It's going to release on Wednesday evening at 5 p.m., I believe. And we'd love you to get sharing it, because I think it'll really make people think about what is important as we face another new year. But let's have a look at the behind the scenes video.
Scene 2B, take 1.
So my name is Jamal Franklin and I'm playing Finnegan. Finnegan basically goes through the story as the same as everyone else pretty much, and then something forces him to be more of an outsider, and through becoming an outsider he discovers new friends and a new way of life, I guess.
I play the optometrist, and he is a sort of a mysterious figure who, what's interesting about him, he expects Finnegan to come in, and then he removes his glasses and Finnegan sees better than he did before. That's confusing.
And it was about my life being different with new lenses.
Standing in line waiting to get my new lenses. I've got my new lenses now. about to shoot that, so I'll let you know afterwards whether I can see that.
Come right up, get your lenses there, here we go.
Great. Amazing. All amazing. Alright, let's run through that. Let's go.
Very good. For those who couldn't see, because they were listening on the podcast, 2020 Vision is about, it's a visual parable about people wearing glasses that they can't get the glasses off their heads, and they're constantly scrabbling around trying to get the right lenses. The lenses for the next year is what's all important. That, oh, you don't have beige lenses. That's so last year. Oh, no. And then it's all about this optometrist who could potentially liberate you and help you to see things properly. So
nice.
Yeah.
Great. Looking forward to that then.
Fun little short film released on Wednesday at 5 p.m. So be ready to share the life out of that. But this is our last live cast of 2019.
Yeah.
Sad times. Sad times.
Little violin.
Yeah. Next week we will release on the podcast a little Christmas sermon. But that'll do us for 2019.
Yeah.
And I guess the next time we might be back, it might not be till the 13th of January, actually.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. So I don't know what you guys are going to do without us, but do you have any podcast recommendations? Like, who would you recommend people listen to in the meantime?
Well, you can always listen to the Unbelievable podcast.
The Unbelievable
and
podcast.
be worth keeping your eyes open.
That's true.
Because you've got an Unbelievable podcast coming out.
That's true. On the 10th.
On the 10th. It will come out as a video, I presume, as well.
10th, yeah. It's going to be released on the 10th of January.
Have we talked about that at all?
We haven't at all.
Do you want to quickly tell people what on earth that's all about?
On Friday, I went up to London and I debated Matt Dillahunty of the Atheist Experience. And people have probably seen Matt Dillahunty kind of... probably if you've ever Googled Matt Dillahunty or searched within YouTube, probably the next word that kind of appears in the auto suggestion box is Matt Dillahunty destroys. And soon to appear in that box will be Matt Dillahunty destroys Glen Scrivener. So yeah, we had a little tete-a-tete.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
Up in London on Friday, and I don't think I did very well, but I think he did even worse. So praise God.
That's heartening to know. So.
It's funny. I did a talk that morning just before I went up to London to a room full of older Eastbournian women.
Right.
And it was very grey-haired. It was very twin set and pearl. But as I was speaking to these 100 Eastbourne women, and they all said, "Oh, we'll pray for you." And as soon as they said that, I thought, Matt Dillahunty does not stand a chance, does he? Who's praying for him?
He's got no one backing him.
I've got 100 Eastbournian women praying for me. So you can tune in on the 10th of January to the Unbelievable podcast. And see how I do. Yeah,
great.
It was a bit of fun.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think you probably did better than you think. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, definitely he dug a pit and fell into it a number of times. So that's always fun to sit back and watch, isn't it? Just mind how you go, Matt. Mind how you go, and then down he goes. So yes, be on the lookout for that. But yes, you'll have nothing more from us except another Christmas sermon this time next week.
Sure, but do keep sharing Christmas bits and bobs, Christmas videos out there.
Yeah.
Feel free to use them in your church if you've got things coming up and you've not got anything set for that yet. Do share them out on social media because there's good messages in there for people to see and hear. So we'd love people to see it.
And we've still got the Christmas crowdfunder. You can give to us at give.net/Christmas videos, and we'd love to get your support there.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you, Glenn. It's been good. It's been a good year.
Hasn't it?
Yes, it's been a lovely year. Here's to another one.
Here's to another. See you next year.
Take care.
Bye.